this is an interesting development in this story. And it is being confirmed by the University of Alabama now that they have relieved Brad Bohannon from his duties.
So Brad Bohannon has been fired.
Alabama Director of Athletics Greg Byrne announced he's initiated the termination process for head baseball coach Brad Bohannon.
Wow.
For, among other things, violating the standards, duties, and responsibilities expected of university employees. Bohannon has been relieved of all duties, and Jason Jackson will serve as the interim head coach. There will be no further comment at this time, pending an ongoing review.
Wow, that's major news there. So if you're just adding up 1 + 1, at the timing of this, it has to come with what has happened from Ohio and New Jersey.
Yeah, when you say, though, in the release from Alabama, this is not speculation. This is Alabama making the announcement. When you say in the release that you're firing someone for, among other things, violating the standards, duties, and responsibilities expected of university employees, on the heels of all this reporting, I don't know how you don't say 2 + 2.
Well, look, again, pure speculation, but can you imagine if Bohannon was betting against his team? I always said this with Pete Rose. I know there was no betting in baseball, but at least he was betting on his team.
Right.
So there was no way that he was able to make his team win these games. You can affect outcomes if you're a manager betting against your team.
There's no doubt. But as we have pointed out all along in this story, Lance, and you know this, Furman backed this up yesterday. Anybody I've talked to about this says the juice would just not be worth the squeeze in college baseball. You just cannot bet enough money on it for it to make it worth it.
What is Bohannon making a year? $250?
I think it's actually more than that. I think he was up around $400.
Greg Byrne announcing he's initiated the termination process for Brad Bohannon. And to be honest with you, there's probably some Alabama fans who don't even know the coach's name, but that's the head baseball coach at Alabama. And he's being fired for, among other things, violating the standards, duties, and responsibilities expected of a university employees. Now, it comes on the heels. Now, it's not said in the statement, but it comes on the heels of Ohio being first, New Jersey yesterday, suspending bets being allowed on Alabama baseball for suspicious wagering activity. And others are starting to follow suit there. Greg Sankey saying yesterday he was aware of the Bama baseball situation. The NCAA was looking into it, and there is the official release from Alabama's athletic director, Greg Byrne, who's issuing that statement at this hour here on a game day where Alabama plays number 5 Vandy later on tonight.
Yeah, number 5 Vandy, by the way, with facing him with an interim head coach now. I mean, there's part of me that wonders, and I'm just wondering out loud here, okay? Part of me that wonders, Alabama baseball under Brad Bohannon has been what to you? Average, below average,
below average, improving.
I mean, they're 9 a little better.
They're 9-12.
Yeah, half the division's 9-12 with them.
Well, I mean, they, when you talk about teams missing the SEC
but based
tournament,
on where Alabama baseball was to where it is.
Yeah, but it hasn't been there in a long time.
Since the 90s, it hasn't been there. I mean, Auburn's a better program than Alabama, just with their postseason success, and that's why you hire Brad Bohannon from Auburn to come to Alabama to try to get a little bit of that juice going with the pitching staff and the recruiting. And I think he has improved Alabama's baseball program. But, it's not at the top of the SEC, but you don't have to be at the top of the SEC to be good. You can be right where you are, 9-12 for Alabama and Auburn, and still be NCAA tournament teams and get in the tournament and get hot and make a run to Omaha like Auburn's done.
Here's what I was going to say, and I'm just wondering out loud, is there's a possibility here, too. Like, you found something maybe Brad Bohannon shouldn't have done, but he hasn't really been that great as a manager or head coach, and I'm ready to move on anyway, and this is a great way not to pay a buyout. And I don't know how big a buyout would be. I don't know if you make a move for a buyout, but I do know they kept a women's basketball coach probably longer than he should have been kept to avoid paying that buyout on a sport that's generating no revenue whatsoever.
This is an example with the timing, 1 + 1, as you said. Where there is smoke, there is fire. I don't know to what level that is.
You don't tie this story if you were making a change, Brown, for on the field performance. You don't make that decision.
No, I'm
now.
not saying he was innocent of something.
You
tied him in. I'm saying
clean up one PR wise, and then you make the decision in a few weeks.
I'm saying you found something that may or may not be fireable all the time, but buddy, it is now because I'm ready to move on anyway. I'm saying if this was a coach you wanted to fight for, maybe you still fight for this guy. But if I'm ready to get rid of him,
as a guy who minored in public relations, this looked a lot better 24 hours ago when people like me could sit here and say, man, there's not a lot of details here. And Alabama's looking bad with all this, it's all Alabama, Alabama, Alabama. And they were playing the number one team in the country. Why are they suspending betting? We need more details. Alabama's looking bad. Now you come out and you fire the coach. Well, now there's nothing for people like me to say. I mean, you're sitting there going, this looks bad. This is bad.
Well, and if you're Bohannon, all this is linked to him now. Like he had some kind of inside information.
That's right.
And he was the guy that was pulling the triggers on this thing.
Yeah. So Greg Byrne releasing Brad Bohannon from his duties, and eventually he'll be let go. That's developing news in Tuscaloosa.